Well, welcome to the Hot Lava Podcast. Kevin Acee, Padres beat writer for the Union-Tribune. Ryan Finley, sports editor of the Union-Tribune. Yes, we missed 2 episodes. One, travel. My fault. Other one, I was sick. My fault. So we missed the Tigers and the Rays. You know what? The Padres pretty much missed those series too. So here we are. Padres Giants, finally a real NL West series. Just 2 games at Petco Park. Ryan, where would you like to start?
I'd like to start with the injuries. Again,
Very
we
good.
missed the last 2 episodes, so we haven't had a chance to double back on some of these things. Clearly, this is a team that is struggling without 3 of its core 6 players. But good news could be in the future for them as soon as tonight, correct?
Yeah, I think Luis Arise, barring something completely unforeseen, be activated tonight. I think Jason Hayward will as well. I don't want to discount, Hayward being out, Lockridge being out. It's been this kind of, a domino effect. But you referenced the 3 core guys, Merrill, Cronenworth, and Luis Arise. So Arise, the concussion, which obviously been written about a lot, but we haven't talked about since it happened, that final game in Houston. But he looks like he's going to be back, and I think that'll be huge, man. I don't know about you, Ryan, but Ben Sheets has been a godsend, but there's a reason that certain guys are where they are in the batting order. There's a reason certain guys go against righties and lefties. There's a certain reason that guys play every day. And, Larissa Rice being out is a big domino.
Yeah, and it's funny. Luis Arise is a little bit of a polarizing player. There are some people, including former co-host of this podcast, who may not believe he's a particularly valuable big league baseball player. But I think if you're looking for somebody to get a clutch hit, if you're looking for somebody to get on base, Luis Arise is certainly better than what they've been running out there the last 9 days. I would also say that had you told me as they were strapping Luis Arise to a board and taking him to the hospital that he would miss 9 days, I think we all would have taken that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. At that moment, it's funny that you and I talked about it, both of us having covered football before. It was a very traumatic moment for baseball and baseball players because that just does not happen. This is my first time since being back on the baseball beat that I've seen a player carted off. Football, it was like 6-7 times a year. It felt like because that's just the nature of the sports, right? So it was a huge deal, especially talking concussions, and you just don't ever want to mess with that. And it was very scary. But I think that almost from the start, again, with concussions being you don't know, and he's got to be cleared against a baseline that he had before the season, which he'll be in there tonight. I just can't imagine that he's not.
Right. And, he talked the other day about it. It's scary to even hear him talk about, the headaches and the issues initially, right, when he first had it, but seems to, seem as if he's gotten better. And if he took that baseline test whenever it was, assuming he can pass a new one and be medically cleared, he should be back tonight. Kevin, what do we make of sort of the small army of subs that have been called up to the big leagues here with this rash of injuries? And, if we're looking to sort of grade the guys who have stepped up, how would we grade them at this point?
Well, I guess then I'll start with the way you phrased the question. I'll start with Jose Iglesias and Tyler Wade. I would think you've gotten about what you could expect from those 2 guys. And I would say if you're being a little generous to Iglesias and you aren't a big Cronenworth guy, then you might say it's a wash, your second base replacement, okay? He's not doing what Cronenworth was the first 12 games of the season, but, Cronenworth does have some downsides too. And I think that Iglesias' OPS might be in the 7s. And so let's call that a wash. Tyler Wade is batting like 3-something, has a couple doubles, a triple, is getting on base at, I think a high 3s, almost a 400 clip. But there's no pop in the bat. He's at the bottom of the lineup. You're not going to fear him. And so, to me, it's like the whole issue is this. Tyler Wade is playing as well as you could expect Tyler Wade to. You are getting value out of Tyler Wade. And it's nowhere near Jackson Merrill. And that's your issue. More than, say, Yuli Gurriel, Oscar Gonzalez, Gavin Sheets, Who am I missing? Oh, Tirso Ornelas. More than those guys batting like a collective 175.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I mean, those are guys that you called up from AAA or that were minor league free agents that might not be on the team in a little bit. That's kind of what there's a fall off. You just don't have people to replace your star players. That's all there is to it. There's a reason. AJ Smith used to say it. There's a reason guys are Pro Bowlers, right? And even if the Pro Bowl has become completely diminished in value, all pros, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason guys are everyday players and a reason guys are not. And yes, man, we root for and we remember the guys that step up, David Peralta, Donovan Solano, right? Why do we remember them so much? Because it's rare that a guy like that is going to come in and save you.
Right. Kevin, if Jason Hayward were to return tonight, how do we see those at bats in left field shaking out? Who's the right-handed platoon if they are indeed going to platoon? Do we think that would be somebody like Oscar Gonzalez? You'd have to think in terms of right-handed bats, maybe that's what they've got.
I just think that, there's a reason that Tirso Ornelas was the last guy up, and I know that it was a very popular choice and people were clamoring for him, but, that Oscar Gonzalez, I think, has a pretty big upside that has more like a 2025 upside and has had some good at-bats and obviously is right-handed. So Tirso Ornelas goes down, right? And I think that Oscar's staying. I wouldn't be surprised today if to get a rise in Hayward on the roster that there was some sort of move with a Yuli Gurriel perhaps. I know how much he's valued. I'll be very interested to see what the overall roster makeup is. I haven't really, other than just thinking, man, when is it here? And I've been the guy saying caution, but we're getting close to that May 1st day, I said on Yuli Gurriel. But I think you would see Jason Hayward, who was, if I want to call it heating up, right? But he was getting on base. He was having some good at-bats. I would think Jason Hayward is your guy against right-handed pitching.
Okay. And it's interesting, too. You look down at AAA, see what Eggy Rosario's doing. You see what Luis Campusano's doing. I mean, yes. Those are guys who, and again, it's not as simple as handing Luis Campusano a first baseman's mitt, right? But, if you're looking for a right-handed DH candidate and you don't think it's Yuli Gurriel, it could very well be Luis Campusano. Yes,
and, then he, I think my first thing would be he's not getting catching reps, but, he could. And what's important is that they're not hitting right now. So there's another one that you have to be looking out for. Look, Martin Maldonado has had some lapses on defense. He handles the pitchers very well. The pitchers are very comfortable with him. They're not so much with Campusano. Is that overcomable? Sure, it is. They've overcome it before. It had Campusano back there during very successful stretches. But Campusano is not going to be any better than Maldonado on defense. And so these are just the things they're weighing. I think there are in the coming weeks, maybe this next road trip as you start to get Merrill. I don't know if that's Friday against Pittsburgh or sometime, maybe it's sometime during that series or the Yankees series. I think Cronenworth is definitely, close to definitely, I think, expected by the Colorado series, which is the third city in that 3-city road trip that's coming up, that during that time, you're going to have some really interesting roster moves.
Yeah. Lots of big decisions coming down the pike. And, we talked 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago, and at the time you said A, it's too early, B, they're playing great. Well, they're not playing great, right? And this is the time when I think there's a little bit of a spotlight shined on those other ancillary guys, simply because it's accentuated, right? And, look, I'm not going to make excuses for the Padres struggles here, but, I was at the game Friday night. That's a 2018, 2019 starting 9. It's different from what we've been used to. And, they play that, right? You play Tampa. I think Tampa's a pretty good team. Padres just did not have any hitting whatsoever.
They're making good pitching look great.
Yeah, they are. And now come the San Francisco Giants. I would say that they're one of the big surprises in baseball as of the moment. I believe that they're in first place in a really good National League West. Bob Melvin's got them playing well. What's been their secret sauce so far?
My gosh, timely hitting, really good pitching. They've got the second best bullpen behind the Padres, by the way. Look, I mean, Willie Adames has not started hitting. I think he's below, like he's at 202, I think was the number that sticks in my head that he's hitting. Their $182 million shortstop they signed for 7 years in the offseason. Wilmer Flores has been their big guy. Matt Chapman has a couple big bombs. I don't want to leave out. I know. Helio Ramos has been hitting well lately. They are, I believe it is 6-3 during this time that the Padres are 2-7, which is, kind of the flip from third to first for both of those and first to third for both of those. Yeah, the Giants are behind the Mets with the Giants, and the Dodgers are 19-10. So they lead the NL West ahead of the Padres at 17-11. And then the Mets have the best record in baseball. It would be 20-9. Yes. So incredible. It's amazing. He played those 3 games against the Rockies, but I even forgot about those. I was looking at this till I read Jeff Sanders' preview yesterday that I was looking at this as the first NL West games. Just because I've been looking forward to them, and you forget because the Rockies are just so awful. They'd be relegated a long time ago. Now, fortunately for the Padres, there wasn't relegation back then. But anyway, this is amazing. Even with the new schedule, right, where you're playing everybody, like I think the Yankees didn't play an American League team until their 11th game this year. This is not terribly unusual, but to have only played one series against the division, and then I think you have Giants again coming up in June. You have Dodgers twice in June, Diamondbacks in June. Not much in April, in July. Huge, 17 of 28 games in August are against NL West. It's very backloaded NL West. And, I did this all in 2021. Are these Giants for real? And they won 110 games or whatever they won. So come on. Their offense is like a bottom third offense. I don't understand it.
It's interesting. One player I'm looking forward to watching, simply because I haven't seen much of him, and he's been a Giant for more than a year now, is Jung-Hoo Lee.
He's got the big hits.
Yep. And this is a guy who, if some Padre fans had their way a year ago, he'd be playing center field for the Padres, right? Not Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill would be playing shortstop or something. Interesting player, big signee out of South Korea. I believe related to Ha-Seong Kim by marriage, something like that. Yeah. A guy who, again, was sort of the focal point of the Giants a year ago, separates his shoulder trying to rob a home run and was done for the year. Seems to have come back and is hitting better. And again, I think is somebody who's just compelling as heck out there.
I'm glad you mentioned him because yes, you see him on the highlights a lot. Very, very exciting player. They do have players on their team that can beat you like they do. It's just surprising that they'd be being carried by Ramos and Flores at this point. Now, tonight's a matchup of the aces.
Yeah.
Logan Webb and Nick Pivetta.
And of course, the Cy Young candidates, Logan Webb and Nick Pivetta, but they are. I mean, they're both pitching great this year. Logan Webb, 3-1 with an ERA, just a tick under 2. He's at 1.98. Nick Pivetta, 4-1 with an ERA of 1.20. Keep that up over the course of the season, Kevin, and you'll win a Cy Young and your team might win a World Series.
There'd be a huge debate over, people be, arguing over how this historic seasons by 2 guys and how unfair it is. One of them has to finish second. Yes, of course. Now, I think Webb's through 6 starts. He's been roughed up a couple times, but also been very good. Pivetta's been roughed up once and been otherwise sensational. I think he's got the decision. I think it's only 5 starts. He's got 1 less start than Webb because Webb was the opening day starter. I think he's got the decision in every start because, there was the one game he went to 3 innings in Chicago and he got the loss. And the other ones, he's just going long enough. The Padres are scoring enough that he's, remarkable. Very few pitchers have done the things that Pivetta has done at the start of their time with a new team in terms of the 7-inning shutouts with 1 or 2 or 3 hits. And now I do caution you, that the lowest ERA by a Padres pitcher in his first 5 starts with the franchise was Clayton Richard in 2016. Now, I'm a big Clayton Richard guy, but he wasn't a Cy Young candidate. So, as Nick Pavetta says, it's early. So, but the fact is, I can't at this point. Michael King's pitched well, and he's on the mound tomorrow, so that's great. The pitching matchups with the Padres are as if this was like a wild card series or something. Like this is just who you'd want on the mound right now. But Nick Pavetta is the guy right now.
Yeah, he is. He has an ERA of 0.42 or something like that at Petco Park this year. Is it just a combination of, he's a fly ball pitcher. Petco Park is generally pretty good to fly ball pitchers. Is it just
I've looked
execution?
at that, but his fly ball rate is down. He's striking out guys. He's just like getting ahead, and then that fastball movement that you and I and most other people can't really see, but believe me, the numbers are there. The swings are there. His curveball is better, he says. It's always interesting when you're watching a guy for the first time every start. I didn't know that much about Nick Pavetta, except he never had lower than a 4.04 ERA and was pretty intense dude. And look, he is pretty intense. But he has just pitched really well.
Yeah, he has. It's a, to me, super interesting little 2-game series here midweek. Again, you go into Wednesday, a guy named Landon Roop.
Mm-hmm.
Roop, 2-1, ERA under 5, 4.5. And then he's going up against Michael King, 3-1 with a 2.18 ERA. He's only had 1 quality start this year, though, which I think is a little surprising.
Walk's a big issue for this kid. Yeah. Walk's a big issue. He got roughed up by a couple good teams, I think, and at least Philadelphia roughed him up once. I think Milwaukee did, and walks are his big thing. You look at some of the other numbers, you're like, I wonder. Oh, walks, okay. I think up there with Randy Vasquez in terms of those getting him in trouble. So look, this is. So real good pitching matchups. Of course, we've said that every time Dylan Cease has gone into a start this year. All right, this is one of the Padres guys. So interesting. We obviously haven't talked about it. I forecasted it once that I don't think this was terribly surprising, but the Padres have gone to a 4-man rotation. Kyle Hart down to AAA. So now they can only do that temporarily because of that long trip, but they do have a day off on the long trip. But it's 6 games before they do.
Right. 2 days off this week, Monday and Thursday, before the Padres head to Pittsburgh. Kevin, when they do add a 5th starter back to the mix, is it Kyle Hart again, do we think?
Interesting. Haven't done the homework on that. That's a great question. Is it Kolek? Is it Omar Cruz, who they've got starting down there, I guess? Yeah. Do they think that they saw – I'm not saying like, Kyle Hart's done. I'm just saying, do they think they saw enough from Kyle Hart? They'd like to see something from someone else if somebody looks good down there. Certainly, we're not going to be able to tell by the numbers because it's AAA and they're playing in the PCL. But I think that one of those 3 guys, I think that Kolek, I guess, is pitching better than his numbers. But, like I said, not going to be able to tell by the numbers. So it'll be interesting, but I think it'll be one of those 3 guys. Wouldn't be surprised at all if it's Kyle Hart. He'd be able to do it after having been down long enough. So we'll see.
Yeah, and we talk about there's enough of a sample size now with the hitters, or getting close to that point where we can start really making value judgments on them, right? Will this guy be able to help the team over the course of the season? The same can be said for the pitchers. I mean, they had seen Kyle Hart, was it 5 starts?
Yes.
5 starts. I mean, that's a pretty good sample size to know what you have. He was, he's been pretty good. He's been bad. Kind of a mixed bag. We've seen his stuff, and it plays well when he's going good, and it doesn't when he's not. And you can say that about a lot of guys, probably.
Say about a lot of guys, but that's exactly why I said they may have seen enough and just want to see what they get from someone else, which doesn't mean that Kyle Hart wouldn't be back here at some point in May or June or whatever. But it wasn't electric, not that they expected it to be, but he just got into some trouble. And it was every one of those starts where you could go, if just this. So like, I kind of want to see him back up, but yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yep. The Pacific Coast League is not the place you want to go to work on pitching.
It's rough. It's a rough call, man. When you get that call, you're like, oh, wow, okay. And then you have to focus on, and this is why they have scouts there every day, in addition to the staff, obviously, is especially on when they want to see a pitcher, a hitter as well. But they want to see what it looks like.
Right. Completely out of left field. Remember when the Escondido Padres were going to be a thing?
Wow, this is where I always say you and your Padres history. I don't.
They were going to move the Beavers. They wanted to move the Beavers from Portland to Escondido.
Yes.
And instead, the Padres ended up going to Tucson temporarily and then on to El Paso. I think about this every time we talk about a guy only having a 5.8 ERA at El Paso. You wouldn't have as many of these problems if you were playing your AAA games in some place with roughly the same climate as your home team, you know?
Yes, it'd be very interesting. You'd have to give tickets away, I would think. That would be as close as any two ballparks could be.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's a conversation for another day, Kevin. I have some thoughts, but today is not the day to go into that. Before we go, I always put you on the spot. I want to ask, first of all, I have not seen you in more than a week, like face to face here, right? Like we're doing it on video right now. Getting sick in the season, is it as terrible as it seems like to me?
This was a weird one because I get sick once every season. I call it the August crud, and it's basically what I had here. But it has every time been on the road, and I just figure it's from getting worn down. But you're on the road. What are you going to do? You call your doctor. You get some antibiotics sent to a pharmacy somewhere. You take them, and you just keep working. Well, this one I was sick in Detroit, and the flight home was miserable. Still got an ear problem. Looking forward to that flight tomorrow. But then I was home, and Jeff Sanders is fully capable of covering this team. And so I was able to take 2 days. Missing 2 days feels like 2 weeks in baseball. That's just the fact that they play every day and lots going on, and you missed the entire start by a guy, and then the next day you missed another entire start by a guy, and you feel like you're playing catch up. But it was very nice to be able to lean into it and sleep and get better. You can probably still feel it in my voice, or hear it in my voice, but yeah, much better. But yeah, it's pretty miserable.
Yeah, you missed Friday and Saturday, which means that you missed exactly 1 run scored by the San Diego Padres.
Almost always like reluctant to see that. I'd rather it be 0, If it wasn't going to be like a difference in a game, you're like, no, let's see if we can see something historic here. But they had to ruin it and go and stop and score a run for the first time in it was a 30-inning scoreless streak.
Yeah, yep. I was again, baseball's funny. The Friday game-ending double play on a sliding catch in the outfield and a throw to first, and adding injury to insult. I'm flipping the phrase there. Mason McCoy comes up and his pinky's facing the other way. Ugh.
Yeah,
it was gross. Anyway, yeah, it's been that kind of weekend for the Padres, who play the Giants here, 2-game series starting tonight at Petco Park. Kevin, I'm going to let you go drink some tea, get a little bit of rest before you go to Petco, and then it's on to Padres Giants for 2 games. That'll do it for this episode of the Hot Lava Podcast. For Kevin Acee, I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time. Yo.
Hey.